What if the quiet giants standing stoically in our forests, well, what if they're not so quiet after all?
Right.
What if they communicate in really complex ways, maybe nurture their young, even learn from their surroundings?
Exactly.
Today, we're hoping to open your eyes to a secret world, one that exists right beneath your feet. It might just challenge everything you thought you knew about trees.
We're diving into Peter Wohleben's remarkable book, The Hidden Life of Trees.
Ah, yes.
Now, Wohlleben, he's been a forester for decades, and he shares these, frankly, astonishing insights from years of just watching and interacting with the forest.
He didn't start out seeing them that way, though, did he?
Not at all. He mentions, starting his career, viewing trees purely for lumber. His words were kind of like how a butcher knows about the emotional life of animals. Pretty stark.
Wow. So what changed?
Well, interactions with curious visitors, asking questions he hadn't considered, plus keeping up with, the latest scientific research, it really transformed his perspective. And that led to the insights we're going to unpack.
Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from this incredible book, give you a real shortcut to understanding this complex, interconnected life of trees without needing to read all, 270-odd pages.
That's the plan.
And speaking of new perspectives, we also want to invite you to explore Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel.
Ah, right.
We offer AI book analysis there, designed to inspire deeper reflection, maybe some more rational thought. It's actually a perfect companion to the surprising things you're about to hear.
Definitely. So, Wohlleben, he really shatters that common idea of trees as just isolated individuals, doesn't he?
He does.
He introduces this core idea. Trees are deeply social. They seem to inherently need community to thrive.
How did he notice that? Just observation?
Yeah, pretty much. He observed that isolated trees, the ones growing alone in fields or along roadsides, they have far shorter lives, maybe a few hundred years.
Compared to forest trees.
Exactly. Compared to their counterparts connected within a forest, which can live for well over 1,000 years.
That's a huge difference.
It is. It really suggests a profound, undeniable need for community, not just for basic survival, but for, longevity and resilience.
That idea alone, trees being social, is fascinating. But he goes further, right? This idea about communication.
Oh, absolutely.
What did he notice about, say, agricultural plants? He thought they'd lost the ability to communicate. That sounds weird.
It does sound counterintuitive, yeah. But he noticed that, unlike their wild relatives, farm plants, because we've bred them for generations just for individual yield.
Right, bigger fruit, more grain.
Precisely. They seem to lack the intricate chemical and electrical signaling you see in natural forests. He suggests that focus on just individual productivity might have accidentally stripped them of this collective voice. He even argues for more wildness in farming to make them, as he puts it, more talkative.
Implying communication is fundamental.
Yeah, like it's a natural state for plants that maybe we've kind of bred out of them.
That's a real paradigm shift. So, okay, if natural trees are talkative, how are they actually doing it across a whole forest? Is it just a metaphor, or is there like a network?
Oh, it's absolutely tangible. And this isn't just Wohlleben saying it. Dr. Suzanne Simard, the pioneering forest ecologist.
Her work's featured in the book, right?
Prominently. She discovered what she actually called the wood wide web.
Catchy name.
It is, but it's real. It's this vast, intricate network where fungi basically act as the fiber optic internet cables of the forest.
Fungi. Like mushrooms.
Well, the underground part. They're thin, thread-like filaments, mycelia. They weave for miles through the soil. It creates this unbelievable density of connections. Think about it. A single teaspoon of forest soil can have miles of these fungal threads.
Miles. And teaspoon. Okay, wow. So these fungal connections, they're literally carrying signals. What kind of signal? Warnings.
Precisely. These networks are incredibly sophisticated. They transmit signals about dangers, insect attacks, diseases, even drought conditions. It allows trees to prepare to maybe boost their defenses.
Okay, that's amazing in itself.
But get this. Simard found these signals don't just travel within one species. They go between different species. Trees we'd normally think of as competitors.
Like a birch warning a fir tree.
Exactly like that. A birch warning a fir about some pest. It just raises this huge question. What and how much information is really being exchanged down there?
It completely changes how you think about a forest. It's not just trees standing near each other.
Right. It's like a thriving, supportive, maybe even collaborative society right under our feet.
A silent orchestra, almost. And if they're communicating like that, it suggests cooperation. You said trees are social, but how does that play out physically? Do they actually support each other, or is it all competition?
It's a mix, but there's often way more cooperation than we tend to think. Yes, there's competition for light and nutrients, definitely.
Sure.
But Wohlleben saw that in natural forests, trees often support each other physically, instead of every single tree needing this super thick, sturdy trunk to stand alone against storms.
They lean on each other.
Pretty much, yeah. They lean comfortably against their neighbors, as he puts it. This communal support helps them withstand things like strong winds much better. They act like a collective.
So interdependence creates strength.
Exactly.
Okay, so physical support, this communication network, and then there's the idea of mother trees. That really stopped me in my tracks when I read about it. It changes what family could even mean.
It's one of the most powerful ideas, I think. Simard's concept, yeah.
Can you explain it a bit more? How do these dominant trees actually nurture the younger ones?
Right. So these mother trees, they're usually the dominant older trees, often hundreds of years old. And they're super well connected through those fungal networks to lots of other trees, including their own offspring.
Hubs, almost.
Kind of, yeah. Major hubs. And they do more than just connect. They actively pass on their legacy. They nurse younger, sometimes stunted trees.
How?
Wohlleben gives this example. Imagine a 200-year-old matriarch beech feeding an 80-year-old stunted beech, one struggling for light down on the forest floor.
80 years old is still young for a beech, right?
Oh, yeah. So the mother tree passes along sugar, other vital nutrients, through their linked root systems using that fungal highway.
So it makes the long wait for light bearable.
Exactly. It's not just about bare survival. It shows this incredible, centuries-long commitment to the next generation. It really makes you question our human ideas about kinship, support, maybe even love in a way.
That's incredibly profound. Wow. And this coordination, it extends even further into reproduction. The book talks about mast years.
Ah, yes. Mass years.
How do trees like beeches and oaks manage to sync up their blooming and fruiting? And why is that strategy so important?
It's really ingenious, and honestly, scientists are still figuring out the exact how. But yeah, beeches and oaks, they don't set fruit every single year.
Yeah.
Instead, they coordinate these mast years where they all do it simultaneously, but only periodically, every few years maybe.
And the strategy is?
To overwhelm the herbivores, basically flood the market. By releasing this huge abundance of seeds all at once, they ensure that even though animals like squirrels and deer will gorge themselves, plenty of seeds still survive undiscovered to sprout.
Safety in numbers.
Pretty much. And by not blooming every year, they also keep the populations of those seed eaters in check. The animals have lean years with little food.
Which raises that question again. How do they coordinate it across a whole forest? Sometimes over huge distances. No central command center?
Exactly. The level of cooperation, the foresight, it suggests this complex multi-generational strategy for survival. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it just completely challenges our human-centric view of intelligence and planning, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Okay, so beyond this cooperation, trees face a lot of natural dangers too, right? It's not just about us humans.
Well, definitely. They're constantly dealing with environmental stress. Well, take snow and ice. Heavy wet snow, or hoarfrost, can build up and break limbs or bend younger trees right over, especially those loners without community support.
The loners again.
Yeah. Then there's lightning. You know the saying, avoid oaks, seek beeches.
I've heard it, yeah. Is there truth to it?
According to the book, yes. An oak's rough, fissured bark can channel a lightning strike right down into the tree. But a beech's smooth bark lets rainwater sheet off, apparently providing a bit more insulation.
Interesting. What else?
Drought is a big one. Apparently, trees experience actual physical pain, tiny micro tears when they lack water, and those tears make them vulnerable to fungi getting in.
Ouch.
And wind, of course. Especially things like summer tornadoes when deciduous trees have all their leaves out, creates huge wind resistance, can twist the grounds right off. In winter, when they're bare, they handle storms better.
It's incredible they survive it all sometimes. So resilience.
Yeah.
How do they adapt? What kind of toolkit do they have, individually or collectively?
They absolutely have a toolkit. Their adaptive behaviors are amazing, like on steep mountain slopes. Trees often grow in this distinctive curve, like a saber.
Why?
It's a direct response to the constant pressure of sliding snow. It literally bends their trunks as they grow.
Wow.
And it's not just individual adaptation, it's collective, it's genetic. Forests, left to manage themselves, develop huge genetic diversity within a species.
Meaning
some trees in that stand will naturally be better at handling drought, others better with cold, Others may be more resistant to certain insects. This variety is the forest's long-term insurance. It lets the forest as a whole endure really drastic climate shifts.
Like the ones the book mentions, big temperature drops.
Exactly. Wohlleben talks about a past event, a drop similar in scale to some worst-case climate change predictions now, about 42 degrees Fahrenheit in just 30 years. And forests survived because of that built-in variability.
And they can adapt physiologically, too, like during a drought.
Yeah, they can actually thicken the waxy layer on their leaves and even their cell walls to cut down on water loss. It makes it harder for them to breathe CO2, but it helps them survive the dry spell.
That adaptability makes you wonder, what else can they sense? The book hints at them having a kind of ability to see. What's that about?
It's provocative, isn't it? It pushes us to think beyond our definition of senses. Wohlleben notes, for instance, that beech trees need about 13 hours of daylight per day to kickstart their growth.
Okay.
And he speculates maybe their buds, with those transparent scales, act like primitive photoreceptors, not seeing like we do, but a very sophisticated light detection.
Huh. And the counting warm days thing for fruit trees.
Right. That's incredible, too. They don't just burst into leaf at the first sign of warmth. They seem to wait, to count until a certain number of warm days have passed.
Why? To avoid being fooled.
Exactly. To avoid putting out vulnerable new leaves during a fall spring, only to have them killed by a late frost. It protects their whole reproductive effort for the year.
Counting days.
Yeah.
That's mind-bending, which leads to that really controversial idea in the book, a tree brain, because they learn and store experiences.
Yeah, that's definitely pushing boundaries. But the question arises because if trees can learn from past events, maybe remember a bad drought or a specific pest attack and how they fought it, it implies some kind of memory, some storage mechanism.
Where would that be?
Wohlleben suggests the roots might be key. They're the most permanent part, often surviving even if the trunk is lost. They manage all the chemical activity, absorb nutrients, feed the fungi, route those warning signals.
And the electrical signals.
Exactly. Electrical impulses can be measured in trees, similar in a way to nerve signals in animals. And this has sparked a real scientific debate. Researchers like Frentišek Baluka talking about plant neurobiology. Mm-hmm. Are they thinking? Are they intelligent?
It forces us to ask, what is intelligence, really?
Yeah.
Outside our own human definition.
Precisely. Understanding these subtle senses, this potential processing, it could completely change how we interact with nature, maybe even change our definition of life itself.
It's a massive question. Okay, shifting focus a bit, beyond the individual tree or even the local forest community. Forests are obviously critical on a global scale, right? It's life support systems.
Immense, absolutely immense, starting right from the ground up with soil. Trees are vital for creating and maintaining healthy soil.
How so?
Well, their roots hold it together, prevent erosion, especially on hillsides, and over long periods, fallen leaves, decaying wood, they build up these deep layers of humus.
Rich organic matter.
Exactly. And that humus is incredible at locking away carbon dioxide. Eventually, under pressure, it can become coal. It's a natural, millennia-long carbon capture process. Forests are basically huge carbon banks.
Regulating the atmosphere. And what about the water pump idea? Forests affecting rainfall far inland.
Yeah, that's another crucial role, often overlooked. Inland areas far from coasts tend towards dryness, towards deserts.
Right.
But forests, with their absolutely massive collective leaf surface area, they evaporate enormous amounts of water from the soil back into the air. It's called transpiration.
And that water forms clouds.
Exactly. Clouds that then travel inland, sometimes hundreds, even thousands of miles, bringing rain. Without these huge green water pumps, life would be impossible in many inland regions. They literally generate their own climate, recycling water continent-wide.
Incredible. And they're also biodiversity hotspots. The book calls them motherships of biodiversity. Just how much life can a forest hold?
It's truly staggering. Trees create countless little habitats, ecological niches, homes for just an unbelievable number of specialist creatures.
Like what?
Oh, everything from tiny flies living in the little pools of rainwater and trunk forks to thousands of species of fungi and insects whose whole job is decomposing deadwood. It's an entire universe of life.
Is there an example, like a specific tree study?
Yeah, Dr. Martin Gossner's study on just one 600-year-old oak tree in Bavaria. He found over 2,000 individual animals.
2,000, yeah.
Belonging to 257 different species. From just one tree.
That's a mind-blowing.
And there's more. Coniferous forests release aerosols that actually reduce airborne germs, like natural air purifiers.
So good for our health.
Directly. And Wohlleben even wonders if we humans unconsciously pick up on those tree scent males we talked about. Like, the alarm calls from stressed trees might affect how we feel in a forest.
Versus a calm forest.
Exactly. He suggests ancient beech forests, maybe sending out contented chemical messages, might actually make visitors feel lighter, more at peace. It's speculative, but interesting.
And then the big one, oxygen.
The big one. Forests release huge amounts, about 29 tons per square mile every day in summer. It's like getting an oxygen shower during daylight hours.
Which balances that at night.
Yeah, gas movements balance it out. But the point is, the sheer scale of their contribution is vital. So what does it all mean for us? It seems incredibly clear. Forest health directly impacts our own well-being, our planet's climate, the air we breathe, the stability of our land. Everything.
Which brings us, unfortunately, to human intervention and the future of forests. The book contrasts commercial forestry with natural processes, doesn't it?
It does, quite strongly. It points out the downsides of a lot of modern forestry, which tends to treat trees mainly as a commodity, just timber waiting to be harvested.
Leading to monocultures.
Often, yes. Forests of just one species, all planted at the same time. And Wohlleben argues these are inherently fragile, much less resilient to pests or diseases or climate shifts compared to diverse natural forests.
And some practices are described as pretty harsh, like girdling.
Yeah, he describes girdling removing a wide strip of bark all around the trunk to slowly kill the tree as a brutal way to thin a forest. It disrupts that natural social structure we've been talking about.
Leads to those street kids trees he mentions. Trees growing up without the guidance of older parent trees.
Exactly. In some managed forests or parks, you get these trees that grew too fast without the slow, guided development they'd get under a mature canopy. They lack the support network, the emergency sugar supply from mother trees. They're kind of maladapted.
So what's the alternative, the way forward?
Well, an idea gaining traction is process conservation. Basically letting forests manage themselves more, allowing natural processes to unfold.
Like setting aside more undisturbed areas.
Right. He mentions German politicians aiming for 5% undisturbed forest, for example. And another model he really champions is the Plinterwalder continuous cover forestry.
What does that involve?
It's about mixing trees of different ages. Young ones grow up protected under the canopy of the mothers. Harvesting is selective, gentle, taking only individual mature trees, sometimes even using horses instead of heavy machinery to minimize soil damage.
So working with the forest's natural tendencies.
Precisely. He calls it a species-appropriate way to manage trees, respecting their social lives and natural development.
It really challenges how we even see a forest, doesn't it? Like we might look at a clearing made by logging and think, oh, more light, maybe more biodiversity.
Right. But the book argues that can be a really flawed perception. Those clearings can actually be traumatic for the established forest community.
How so?
It can lead to local extinctions of countless microscopic organisms, fungi, insects, all the things that depend on the stable, shaded, humid conditions of the mature forest floor. That sudden blast of light, heat, dryness, devastating for them.
So more plant species popping up might actually be a sign of disturbance, not health.
One study cited suggests exactly that. Increased plant diversity after management could be proof of trauma, not something to celebrate. It forces us to look deeper, beyond our very human, site-reliant bias, to understand the hidden life that truly makes a forest vibrant.
Wow. Okay, so we've journeyed into this world where trees are, well, profoundly social, subtly intelligent, deeply interconnected. They're silently orchestrating life on a huge scale. This book, it doesn't just give facts. It really challenges us to rethink our whole relationship with nature.
Absolutely, to see the wisdom in letting natural processes work.
So the next time you walk through a forest, what might you hear differently? What might you see under the surface now? How might you feel knowing about this hidden life?
It definitely changes things. And for more insights like these, to really let these ideas sink in, we do encourage you to check out Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel.
Right. And also check out all of our podcasts. We have more AI book analysis and hopefully inspiring discussions there to get you thinking.
It's all about that deeper reflection.
So if this exploration resonated with you today, please do subscribe to our show. Maybe share this deep dive with a friend or family member who loves nature.
That would be great.
And if you want to dive even deeper, consider grabbing a copy of The Hidden Life of Trees. We'll put a link in the show notes. It really is an incredible book.
It truly is worth the read.
And most importantly, just keep thinking critically about the amazing world around you. Keep allowing yourself to be surprised, maybe even re-enchanted by its wonders.